This is Road Noise, Life 1 Mile at a Time, episode number 64. What I learned from 2016. Hello and welcome again to another episode of Road Noise, Life 1 Mile at a Time. I'm your host, Michael Blackston, and in this episode we're going to talk about the year that just went by really fast, 2016, and I'm going to talk about great things that happened. I'm going to talk about some not so great things that happened, what I learned from them, and then I'm going to give you my plans for 2017, which I'm excited about. In fact, I've got more plans than I'm going to actually mention in this episode. For time's sake, I mentioned some of the kind of bullet point ones that are some of the most important to me for this episode. Now, you're going to be noticing a little something different. Right now, if you're a normal listener, you're not noticing the noise from the road in the background, and that is one of the things that's going to change and I'm going to go ahead and tell you about. However, if you're new, this won't matter one bit to you until you start listening to the previous episodes, and there's 63 of them, where the road noise under me, the reason we call it road noise, but the noise of the road under my voice is very audibly heard. And the reason for that is because I was driving while I did this podcast. And there's a part of me that's going to miss that, but there's another part of me that's kind of glad that I'm going to be paying more attention to the road. I'm not changing the name of the podcast, but I still think it's appropriate for a title for this show because I'm still on the road. I'm still traveling for my work, and although you won't hear the noise of the road, I won't be recording this as I drive. I will be recording it for the most part in hotel rooms. But I've got some other exciting things that I'm hoping to do with the podcast. If it keeps going on much longer, I'm going to start adding maybe some interviews from some interesting people and that I meet along the way. And one of the ways I'm going to do that is I'm going to get a new handheld digital recorder. I'm looking at a Roland, I think it's called R05, I think is what it is, but it's made by Roland and it's highly recommended. And I'm going to go ahead and get one because you can record straight with external speaker or external microphones right into the Roland R05 and get pretty good sound quality, interview quality especially. It's really good, and I think that I'll be able to add that element to this podcast. But I'm going to keep it along the lines of what I've been doing. It's just I'm not going to do it while I drive anymore, and there's a couple of reasons for that. First of all, I guess the most important is that it's just, I feel like I haven't really been putting anybody's life in danger while I've been recording this podcast, but at the same time, it's probably not the best idea for me to do it while I'm operating a 2 or 3 ton vehicle. I just need to be paying more attention to the road, and it's something that I've been convicted about, but I really kind of would push it into the back of my mind and not really worry about it. But I really think I need to have both hands on the wheel and also my mind completely on the road and not, split between the road and doing this podcast. So number one, it's for safety's sake. And number two, well, I guess you could say there's 3 reasons. Number 2, I have not been satisfied with the audio quality of the most recent episodes since I have started using the Audio-Technica headset. At first, I did some stuff in post-production, and I thought, it's okay. It'll work. It's fine. You got the noise of the road under there. People don't care. It'll be fine. And several people told me they thought it sounded good. But I'm not a complete audio snob, but I am somewhat of an audio snob, and I just literally lose sleep over it. It's hard for me to go to sleep when I start thinking about it, the sound quality I was getting. And right now I'm using a Shure SM58. You're still not getting the quality that I really want from it because I'm not working in a room that is adequate for it. I'm not set up properly. I'm going to get myself some noise dampening stuff. Right now, you're still going to be picking up a little bit of a hollow echo. You may not even be able to hear it, but I can in post-production when I did some testing on it. But it's not anything that you would probably ever think about. But me, I don't really want as much echo as I'm hearing in here naturally. But I'm using an SM58 by Shure. And that microphone is a phenomenal microphone, especially for the price. It is tried and true, and it's the one I was using and holding in my hand when I first started doing this podcast. And so I'm going back to the Shure SM58. I even thought about going into getting a Heil PR40, which is a $300 microphone for this podcast. But then I thought, for something where I'm going to be toting a microphone and equipment around with me while I go on the road, the Shure is doing a fine job. So I think I'm going to go with that. I looked into an ATR 2100, which is also made by Audio-Technica, and it's just a little bit too bright for me, not quite as much presence as the Shure SM58. And I know I'm getting really geeky here, but it's me. It's part of my life, and it's stuff I'm learning about this audio production business. And if you're going to have a decent podcast and a good sounding podcast, you need to learn a little bit about, a good bit about audio production and what sounds good and what is decent to a listener's ear. So that's been going through my mind, and I've decided to go back to the Shure. I've decided to do this from a hotel room. And that kind of leads me into, I guess, the third reason for changing up and doing the Road Noise podcast in hotel rooms. While it's fine, and my listeners that have been listening and my subscribers that have subscribed, thank you very much. But you're small in numbers, and one of the things, as I've been looking into ways to improve the growth of this podcast, one of the things that comes back to my gut over and over again is it needs to sound better. There needs to not be the noise of the road under my voice. While some people think it's charming and some people it really doesn't bother, and even if it did bother you, maybe you've learned to adapt to it. It's, all in all, not good. I don't want to say good radio. My mind goes straight to radio because I used to be a radio guy. It's not good radio, but it's not good audio quality. It's just not. And I think I can do better all the way around with this podcast, not only by giving you better audio quality, but because I'll be doing this not on the road, I can give my full attention to giving you the content that I need to do. I think the content will be better. I think the content will be more clear and concise if I'm not paying attention to the road while I'm doing it. So I've come to the conclusion to stick with recording this in the hotel rooms while I'm on the road. So it's still going to be the Road Noise podcast. It's going to be noise from me while I'm on the road doing my work, just not while I'm driving. So that long explanation, I felt like for my regular listeners, I needed to go ahead and explain what was going on and why you're hearing it this way. And as a matter of fact, this is episode number 64. I haven't recorded episode 63 yet, and one of the reasons is because I want to get better quality with that, but I have to have a lot of notes in front of me that I don't have access to right now. Or I do, but it'd be a lot of trouble to get to them, the Christmas episode. So this is actually being recorded a little bit before Christmas. Let's see, that's, what date is it even today? My phone's got low battery on it. I was going to try to video this one, but I'm not quite there yet. I've got all of the stuff I want to do with that, but I'm just not quite there yet. But today, as I'm recording this, is December the 20th, so it's 5 days before Christmas and a couple of days before I'm going to release the episode of Road Noise for the Christmas, which will be number 63. So I'm recording this stuff out of sequence, but I'm thinking I might try to convince my wife to join me for that episode. I'm not sure. Anyway, let's get down to business. You're hearing this in sequence, and we're talking about 2016. So what I wanted to do to start off with 2016's kind of year in review thing is kind of hit the highlights. I want to start off on a good note. I'm going to have some negative stuff. I'm going to have some, poochy lip stuff coming up in just a little bit. So let's start it off with the highlights, because 2016 had a whole lot of highlights for me. I really enjoyed it for the most part. For one thing, I finished my play earlier on in 2016. I finished the final draft of my play, Friends Like You. And on top of that, I found out a few months ago that the theater, my local theater in Elberton, Georgia, where I do all of my theater, I'm going to be able to produce that play. So my second show that I've written, my second play that I've written, is going to see a stage. And I am so excited about that. We're doing that coming up in 2017 in June. That'll be when the production dates start. And I am absolutely excited as I can be. Also very nervous because this one is a comedy. The first one was a drama, and I kind of knew how the reactions for everybody was going to be. I could feel that one. Comedy to me is harder to write than anything else because you don't know if you're funny until you put it in front of an audience. So I've spent all of this time writing Friends Like You, and I'll know whether it's funny and good when the audience tells me it is. So you kind of have to throw yourself in the fire with that, and I'm excited about it. But I finished the final draft of that in 2016, so that was one of the highlights. Also, literary finishings. I finished my novel just a few weeks ago. In fact, December the 1st, I finished Mr. Long Said Nothing, the novel. The first draft. I have said that I was going to shelve it for a month through the month of December and get back on it right after January and start doing draft 2, but I think I'm going to push that back a little bit because I have an ebook that I'm trying to finish as well. I started it last year, and right now it's called Destination Motivation, but that's probably just going to be the working title. I don't think that's going to be the final title for it, but it's all about how to get motivated. A lot of times people want to be motivated, but they're not motivated to be motivated, and it's just kind of how to get things done and finish what you start and that type of thing. I want to get that ebook out, and so I'm going to push Mr. Long back, but I did finish the first draft of my novel. So many people want to write the great American novel, or if you're listening somewhere else, the great whatever novel. You want to write a novel. You feel like there's a book in you. I've had an episode called There's a Book in You, or How to Write the Book in You, or something like that. Anyway, I finally did it, and that's an accomplishment. If something happens to me and I don't get to do draft 2, I still have draft 1, a completed novel that I've done, and that is such an accomplishment for me because I've tried so many times to start one, and now that I've learned and I am motivated to finish, to get past that finish line, to break the tape at the finish line, I've learned how to finish things, and now I've finished 2 plays, I've finished a novel. I'm so excited that you just can't understand it, and now 2017 should see that one coming along. That's I'll talk about that in 2017, in my plans for 2017. We'll get to that in a little bit. I'm jumping ahead. Also in 2016, I got to do something that I probably never would have thought I would be fit for. I got to play a role that I never thought I would be cast for. But in March of 2016, my wife and I got to play Gomez and Morticia in the Addams Family, the musical. I have an episode about Going Gomez. That's episode number 19, Gomez, or Going Gomez, and my son has ADHD. I talk about my son having ADHD too there. Going Gomez is episode number 19. And also looking back, the episode that was How to Write a Book That Is Inside of You, or How to Write the Book That's Inside of You, was episode number 39. So if you want to look at those, I pulled up my phone and I'm looking at those now so I can reference these episodes as I come to them if I decide to talk about them. Also in 2016, a highlight was I got to take my whole family to Disney World, and not just my wife and my kids, which was special, but I got to go with my mom and my sister and my stepdad. And Disney to our family it's more than just a vacation. It's magical to us. I'm a member of a group in Facebook called Disney World Junkies, and it was such a fun trip. Now we took it I think we went in June, and it was hot, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. It was a dry heat, and so it really didn't sit on you as badly as it normally does when it's really humid. It just wasn't as humid on those days that we were there, except I think the last couple of days it got pretty bad, but the first couple of days it surprised me how well we were able to adapt. And me being someone who has skin cancers that I have to deal with frequently, I had to slather myself with SPF 100 every single day, and I'm supposed to be doing that every day anyway, but I especially did then, and I got one of those kind of floppy hats that has the brim that goes all the way around. I did that, and I realized that I have been suffering through summers needlessly. All I've needed, instead of wearing a baseball cap, was to get one of those floppy billed brimmed caps with the brim all the way around it, and it shades my entire head, and it's amazing the difference that it made. this summer when I wore that hat, and I didn't get nearly as hot. So we went to Disney World, and my wife and I went to Savannah. I took my wife to Savannah not very long ago, just a couple of months ago, and we fell in love with it. We also didn't realize that Tybee Island was so close to Savannah. It's only like 10 miles, maybe, from Savannah. You head out toward Tybee Island, and before you know it, you're there, and it is one of the most spectacular, beautiful beaches in the country. In fact, one of the advertisements or something, I think maybe I talked to somebody about it or something, I found the information somehow while we were there, that Tybee Island is considered one of the best beaches in the country. If you ever get a chance to go out there, go out there. It's not as crazy. Now, I didn't go out there, I think we were in September, or was it October? No, maybe it was October. Anyway, when we were out there, there wasn't that much going on. I mean, the tourist season had already gone by, so there wasn't all of the touristy stuff going on, but I don't think it's as bad as like Daytona, Myrtle Beach, or Miami Beach, or any of those places where it's just back-to-back, wall-to-wall people. It's a smaller area, just a few hotels, just a few restaurants. It's kind of a quiet place. We just fell in love with it, and fell in love with Savannah. In fact, if we decide to move away, we have been considering a move to Myrtle Beach, but now we're thinking maybe it's going to be Savannah because there's more to offer there. Everything we had in Myrtle Beach to offer, but more than that for an artisty, antique historian buff like me. It's just everything. So we really fell in love with Savannah. And I bought a new keyboard in 2016. Actually did this a few weeks ago. I'm getting ready now that I have completed the first draft of Mr. Long. Once that play novel is up and ready for sale and I'm done with it as far as the creation portion, and I've got this other ebook, I'm going to be hitting in 2017 my musical, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But the keyboard plays a big part in that, and I bought a new Yamaha keyboard with weighted keys, 88 keys, full-size keyboard, and I love the thing. And I needed it because the piano that we had before was given to me by my mom, and although it was given, I didn't have to pay for it. It's one that was bought off the back of a truck years ago, and it just wouldn't hold a tune. It's a beautiful piano, and when it did play in tune, it played beautifully. It just would not hold a tune. And so I gave that away to somebody who was learning and didn't mind having it tuned. I think he knew somebody who could frequently tune it for him, and so we gave that away to him, and I just recently bought this Yamaha. And also, on the same day, and what happened was I was planning to buy a new Yamaha keyboard. But the one I had my eye on was a couple $100 more than the one that I bought, but it had a sequencer on it, like a 16-channel sequencer. And what that does is you can record yourself playing an instrument into the keyboard itself, and it will play it back, and then you can lay them over each other and do an entire orchestration. And then you could take that orchestration, erase everything, do it again. I mean, you could just do this over and over and over again, and that's what a sequencer does. Well, the one I bought didn't have a sequencer. The one that I was looking for, they no longer had. So I went ahead and bought this other one because I had found that very day, I feel like the Lord led me to this little small music store kind of in the corner of a shopping mall, or not a shopping mall, but a strip mall. And somebody had recently traded in a Korg. And if you don't know much about music or recording, Korg is a big name and a quality name in musical equipment and recording. A Korg 16-channel digital recorder. Maybe it's 8-channel. Actually, I think it's 8-channel. It's 8-channel digital recorder. But anyway, I got the thing for $125. It normally sells for $400. It works perfectly. I got a great deal on it, so it kind of washed out. And it's a better deal for me because as I start my new podcast, I'm going to be using it as the mixer that I run right into as the digital recorder. Or I'm going to run my mixer right into the digital recorder. Anyway, I'm not going to geek out anymore on that type of thing. I also, on a personal note, made a lot of strides in the battle with my addiction to pornography. I learned a lot of things about temptation. I learned a lot about myself as far as strength goes and ways to battle it, and it's just that's one of those things you do constantly, day in and day out. You have to battle it, and you learn, you strategize, and you find out different ways to fight. And I've just made strides in that. I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail with that either, but just know that I made strides in 2016 with my porn battle, and I'm excited about that. And then I didn't have these numbered, but I got a little further out of debt in 2016. That is a big deal for me and my wife. We are planning to get out of debt, and it's kind of a one thing at a time type deal, but we got a little further out of debt, and financially 2016 was a big year for me. And so it's been great. We've really been blessed. The Lord is absolutely merciful and gracious and has blessed us, and I'm so thankful for it. But along with the good comes the bad. And so now I'm going to talk about some hard pills to swallow in 2016. All of these things you've probably heard me mention in different episodes of the show, but I'll just kind of go down them, and there aren't as many as... That's how I knew it was a really good year. There weren't near as many bad ones that I could really come up with as there were good ones. But probably the biggest one, the most difficult thing, and it's something that we're still dealing with right now, is my mom was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer that began as melanoma, and she is currently in a cancer battle. And so I've told you before, and I guess it'll be ongoing, we covet your prayers in that situation. If you are someone who has ever known someone who has battled cancer, or maybe you have yourself, everything that goes on. She's been taking immunotherapy. They're doing some different things after the next or the last treatment, although there was good news. So they're just doing some different things because of some side effects that she was having from the immunotherapy. And but my mom's cancer diagnosis was one of the things in 2016 that was a really hard pill to swallow. Another hard pill to swallow was my skin cancer treatments. I spent most of the summer of 2016 recuperating from skin cancer treatments with open sores on my body that were either stitched up or just having to be patched up every day. I had 4 across my back that they just cut off, and that was it. They were done with it. Then I had a 5th one on my back that they cut off, and then they said they didn't get it all, so they needed to go in and do what's called the Mohs procedure. And that just means they cut on you early in the morning or whenever you start, and they take it right to the lab, do a biological kind of study thing on it. They see if they've got it all right there while you're waiting, and if they have, great. If they haven't, they got to cut on you more. And it required, I think I had to go for the first cutting, and then the second, I think they did it one more time, and then they got it all. But it was an enormous gouge that they had to take out of my back, and after they sewed it up, it looks like a shark bit me. There's a dimple in my back, and then the places where they did the stitches, it just kind of looks like a shark bit me. And that was fine, though, because, it was hard to get to, and it was hard to treat because it was on my back, so I had to kind of get used to contorting my arms around me to get the bandages and stuff on there, but it healed up really nicely and really quickly. And then I had 2 places that also had the Mohs procedure on my face, up on my almost right in the middle of my forehead, and then one on my temple on my left side. And I'm still scarred from that. So I spent all of the summer and part of the fall recuperating from skin cancer treatments. And that was a hard pill to swallow just because it was annoying. I've just got fair skin, and I spent so much time in the sun without sunblock that I just have it all. I just have spots all over me and I still have some that I have to have taken off. And that I'm going to do that after the first of the year, though. I didn't want to deal with it during the Christmas season. Another hard pill to swallow, I had a bad tooth extraction experience. I went and had a back tooth on the bottom that had to come out. It had just... I don't even want to think about it, but I'm pretty sure the dentist that did it, she was a young lady, and while I have nothing against young people doing medical work, you got to start somewhere, and I just don't think she was far out of dental school, and she kind of made a wreck of my mouth. At that time, I had to go back. They had to get more bone out that she missed. It's really too excruciating to even talk about, but it was a mess. It's fixed now. Everything's fine. There's an empty place in my back of my mouth where that tooth used to be, but it's healed up now and I'm not in pain. So it eventually was good, but it was not a good experience. The Buick gave out. If you've listened to me when I first started doing this podcast, you knew I was driving a Buick Rendezvous, or at least you were listening at some point when I mentioned it. The Buick Rendezvous gave out. Finally, it started running hot, and when I had the mechanic look at it, he said, look, it's a head gasket. It's not going to be easily fixable. It's going to cost a lot of money to fix it. And on top of that, it looks like your transmission's going to go at any time. So when that happens, you're looking at several thousands of dollars that the Buick is not even worth. You might as well just sell it to somebody who wants to fix it, or sell it for, junk, metal scrap, and see what you can get for it there and move on. Take those thousands of dollars you would have spent fixing it and buy something else that's dependable. So that's what we actually did. Was I took my wife's Hyundai that she was driving, a Hyundai Elantra 2013, I think, Hyundai Elantra, and she bought a Mazda 5 minivan. She wanted something that was a little easier to get the kids in and out of and a little roomier anyway, so we went that direction. I'm driving the Hyundai right now. Actually, right now, as this is recorded, I'm in the Mazda 5 and she's in the Hyundai because I had to put it in the shop because there was a transmission sensor type thing they had to fix, but that was kind of an easy fix. It wasn't easy on my pocketbook, but it got the job done and everything's good as new now. So I'm actually driving the Mazda 5 today, but starting next week I'll be back in mine. And then finally, my high blood pressure diagnosis. Been a lot of medical issues this year. And I was diagnosed with high blood pressure, and so I'm having to take these pills that make me have to go to the bathroom constantly. It's hard to get used to because when you're an etcher like I am, you have to stand in one place, and when you have to stop what you're doing and break your concentration to go to the bathroom constantly, then it's just annoying. But it's something I have to deal with, and it's partly my problem or my fault because of my health has not been great. And what I mean by that is that I have not treated my body and my health well. It's kind of me being bad. So that's 2016 highlights and hard pills to swallow. So what am I looking forward to in 2017? Well, here's some things that you're going to hear me talking about on the podcast. For one thing, I want to get 1 to 2 ebooks up for sale. And the two I've got in mind are the novel of Mr. Long Said Nothing that I told you about, and the Destination Motivation, or whatever I'm going to title it, the self-help book that I'm going to get out. Both of those I want to try selling as ebooks, and I would like to get those up and running, up for sale, at least by the end of 2017, and hopefully a lot sooner than the end of 2017. I'd like to do it by at least the middle of 2017. But as long as I get it going sometime this next coming year, I'll be a happy camper, because those will be two projects that are completed and hopefully making me some money doing the things that I want them to do. Also in 2017, I would like to finish the final draft of my musical. I mentioned that. Well, I've got to orchestrate it, but I do have a lot of tweaking to do to the lyrics and the dialogue in the play. It's called The Right Song. And I'll tell you more about it as we get a little deeper into 2017 and it becomes a bigger part of my life. Right now, it's not as much, but I have some tweaking to do on the first draft of that. I do have that complete, but it's been sitting complete for several years, and it's time to give voice to the right song. And so that's on the agenda for 2017. And I also want to get laser focused on my health. And I had something tonight I found out about that is going to help me with that. I'm going to tell you about that in just a little bit, because in the very first 3 months of 2017, you're going to get to go on a journey with me, and I'll tell you all about that in just a little bit. It's going to be a health journey. I want to launch the Everything Arts podcast. That's my podcast that is going to go right alongside with my new branding for my business, which has been Blackston Arts for nearly 10 years, maybe at 10 years. Well, I think 2018 will be 10 years, but anyway, almost a decade. It's been Blackston Arts, and now I'm branding everything because so many areas of my art life are kind of coming into play and starting to actually look like they may be viable parts of my business. I've been branding Everything Arts on Facebook. I have an Everything Arts page. I have an Everything Arts YouTube channel. And so I'm going to be kind of really sharpening my focus on that and molding Everything Arts in 2017. And I'm really excited about that. And then finally, I'm going to set up a studio. And that's going to happen when I do rebrand to Everything Arts, because when the business happens at the beginning of next year, I'm hoping to rent a space that I can use as a studio, not only for my art, but to also have a retail space that'll kind of I'm hoping it'll at least make enough money to pay the bills for renting the space, just to cover those costs. I'll be happy if it does that, but I am going to be trying to actually make a profit on that, because I would love to be able to merge everything together and eventually get to where I'm not on the road as much. And now when that happens, I don't know, this podcast may be rebranded to something else if it goes that far. So that's what's coming up in 2017 that I've got planned. Now, I want to tell you about these next 3 months coming up, January, February, and March. I'm going to take you along on a journey with me. I just found out that I will more than likely be playing a role in the first show of the season at the Elbert Theater, which is the stage show of MASH. I don't know what part I'm going to be playing. I told the director, he asked me if I had any certain part in mind that I would like to do, and I told him just to surprise me, whether it was a big role or a small role, that I wouldn't have my feelings hurt either way, just put me where he needed me. And so he said, okay. So I don't know what my role's going to be yet, but it's MASH. It's during the Korean War. I think the stage show's during the Korean War. No, the television show was. See, they're in the Army or whatever it is. I guess it's the Army. It's military, so I got to be in shape. And I decided I want to be in as good physical shape as I can possibly be in when we do MASH. So it's going to be a 3-month rehearsal process, I think. 2 or 3. I'll find out soon enough. Up until that time, starting in January. This is not a New Year's resolution. I'm not big on New Year's resolutions, but it's going to be one of those that I have a reason for it, and I'm using it as an opportunity to finally get into the best shape I've ever been in. And I've managed to maintain the weight I've lost. Over the last 5 years, I've lost about 60, 70 pounds, I think is what, maybe it was closer to 50. I'm not sure, but I lost it a couple of years ago, and I managed to maintain it down to anywhere from 185 to 188 is usually where I stay. I need to get down to 160 to 165. That's not that far, and I think I can do that in 2 or 3 months using a lot of exercise, a lot of weight training, and high-protein, low-fat diet. I'm just really going to use this as an opportunity to get in Army shape, or as close to it as I possibly can. And so I want you to help me. You're going to go along on the journey with me, because I'm going to be, hopefully I'll remember to be accountable to you and give you updates on where I am when I start and where I am in each week as I release these episodes, and let you know how it's gone, where I've failed, where I've succeeded, where I stand weight-wise at that time, and hopefully you'll be able to follow along with me. We'll see where it goes. Maybe it'll inspire you. If you're somebody who needs to lose a little weight, maybe you can do it along with me, or maybe it'll inspire you somehow. And I hope that maybe you'll give me some encouragement, and I'll tell you how to get in touch with me to give me some encouragement at the end of the episode. The last thing I want to do, I'm not going to kind of tell you about my week simply because I've been telling you about my whole year, so you just don't need any more personal information. If you've made it this far, you're probably ready to hear the positive review and move on to whatever the next podcast is you like to listen to. So I'm going to give you my positive review, and I told you all about it ahead of time at the beginning of this episode when I told you why I changed microphones. This positive review is for the Shure SM58 handheld microphone. Now, the one I'm using it's an XLR connection. I've got a cable that runs XLR into the computer via USB, so it's recording straight into the computer. And I've got a mixer I'm going to start bringing along with me. I'm actually going to tweak my voice. It'll sound probably, hopefully, even better than you're hearing now as I move on and learn to do this and get better equipment and start setting it up in the hotel rooms. But the microphone is going to be the Shure SM58. It has been used to record countless albums that you know of, that you've heard from your favorite performers. It's been a studio microphone, a performance microphone. It is just tried and true. And everybody who's had a lot more experience with it than I have says it's indestructible, that you could just about drop it in the bottom of Lake Erie, pick it back up, plug it in and go. I mean, they say it's just nearly indestructible. And it's one of the reasons it's been such a popular microphone for stage shows and stuff, because they do a lot of moving and the equipment gets jostled and knocked around and transported from one place to another. They need stuff that's durable. The Shure SM58 is durable. So I want to tell you that if you're ever thinking about maybe starting a podcast, it is about a $100 microphone. It's in the $100 range, so it's a mid-range microphone. You can get cheaper ones that sound just fine, but if you want something that's going to last you for a long time, but it's not going to break the bank, you can't go wrong with the Shure SM58 handheld mic, and that's what I'm using right now, and I do love it, and it's probably, at least for the time being, the microphone that you're going to be hearing my voice come through doing the recording for the Road Noise podcast. So that's this week's positive review. So do you have anything you'd like to talk about? Do you want to tell me about your 2016? I'd love to hear it. And just because we're moving into 2017 doesn't mean we can't mention 2016. So tell me your stories. I want to hear all about it. And what you need to do is get in touch with me via either feedback or the Hotmail, voicemail hotline. Not Hotmail. Did anybody use Hotmail anymore? Anyway, here's how you do it. The email address is feedback@michaelblackston.com. That's feedback@michaelblackston.com, or you can call me on the voicemail line at 706-408-7456, 706-408-7456. I'm still waiting on that first person that I've never met before to leave me a voicemail. I can't wait. When that happens, you're probably going to be able to hear me wherever you are go, woohoo, because I still have this voicemail line and I still promote it. I just think people are shy. I think people are shy and don't want to let their voices be heard. But you can get in touch with me that way too. You can also leave comments right on the website at roadnoisepodcast.com. And that is the place you can go and you can get everywhere you want to be from that. We've got all of the social media buttons there. I put the show notes on there. I put the links to anything that I mentioned. The Shure SM58, I'm going to have a link to the Shure website right there. Even if I can find their page that goes right to their SM58, I'll probably have the link go straight there. So if you're interested, go there. And also on the roadnoisepodcast.com site, you can go to iTunes there. If you'd like to subscribe through iTunes, you can do it right there. There's an iTunes button, and you can also leave me a rating and review there on iTunes as well, which helps me to get seen. Let's see, is there anything else I want to talk about? I don't think so. I think that's it. It's been a great year. It's been a trying year at times, yes, but overall it's been a great year. And I choose to look at everything in a positive light, to put the silver lining around every cloud that I see. Lately, I've had to learn to get some positivity back in my life, and I'm doing that, and I'm hoping you can hear that coming through in the podcast. Love to hear from you, but if I don't, just keep listening and tell somebody about the show. Hopefully, we'll grow in 2017, and I'm looking all so forward to that. So, thank you. You're not sitting alongside me in the passenger seat anymore. You're in my room. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time on Road Noise. I'm Michael Blackston, and together we're learning to live life 1 mile at a time.